Content warning. The stories and themes shared throughout this podcast may contain themes that can be distressing for you. If needed, please pause and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If needed, please reach out to a mental health professional for support.
Welcome back to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. But today it's only Blair, but also Angie Hanson. So Angie's amazing. She is the author and the founder of Butterflies and Halos, a grief-focused stationery company. After enduring the heartbreaking losses of her son, husband, and brother within just 2.5 years, Angie transformed her pain into purpose. Her memoir, Chapters of a Resilient Heart, offers an intimate look at her journey through grief and resilience. Through Butterflies and Halos, she creates heartfelt greeting cards that helps grieving individuals and their supporters find the words to connect, heal, and honor their feelings. She's also in the process of becoming a certified grief coach, where she's going to use her knowledge and her teachings to guide others through their journey of grief to help them also find their resilience. Angie's mission is to ensure no one feels unseen in their grief, and she continues to inspire others to navigate loss with grace, courage, and empathy. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Blair. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, that's a lot of loss in such a short period of time. And well, I sort of understand the complex grief.
Yes.
And I can't even imagine what it was like to lose your husband, your son, and your brother. Uh, let's talk about it. Tell us the story.
Well, yeah, I very typical normal family is what we were. This grief journey really just kind of came out of nowhere for us. And in 2006, we received an unexpected phone call from the sheriff's office letting us know that our son had stopped breathing at his daycare provider's house. And she tried to do CPR and do all the measures she could. And Garrett was life flighted to the hospital. And when we arrived there, we were told that Garrett did not survive. And so um, that really started the journey of the most crazy, I guess, heartbreak, gut wrenching path that I've ever been on in my life. And, we didn't really know at the moment really kind of what happened to our son. And he was perfectly healthy. He had just turned 1. We had his birthday party 6 days prior to that. And, um, we just kind of moved through the motions, honestly, during that time period. We were surrounded by a community of family, friends, and, everybody really just tried to rally around us and try to hold us up. And we found out about a month after our son had died that he had an undetected heart defect. And it basically his right coronary artery was kinked, and it always causes sudden death. And it's either an extreme rest or extreme activity. And Garrett was napping at the time. So yeah, there's no detection for it. And so yes, so that was the beginning. So June 2006 is when it all started.
So Garrett was 1.
Yes.
He died in 2006. That is so heartbreaking.
Yes.
I had no idea that rest was so deadly.
Yes. Yes. One would not think that. Um, you know, uh, we just we just really were trying to find the answers for everything. Like, what did we do wrong? Did we do something? Did I do something wrong during my pregnancy? I wanted or needed the answers, I thought. But as we moved through the months, and we knew that we were never going to have the exact answers, and we realized that this was the path laid out before us. So how are we going to make our path okay? And our daughter was 4 at the time. And so we had a lot to live for. We had a lot to give. And we had to give Gracie, our daughter, the life that she needed and deserved. So that's where we poured everything into.
Yeah, so heartbreaking and I mean, there's no manual, and I can't imagine all of the different thoughts you'd have had, like what could you have done, differently, or what did you do, or what could have been done, and it just sounds painful and sad and messy. And that was just the beginning of some losses, right?
Yes, yes. So fast forward, we made it a year after Garrett had died. So June 2007, we celebrated Garrett on his anniversary, his 1 year anniversary, because we had survived. And so let's celebrate and honor Garrett's memory. And that's exactly what we did. And my husband Jack, he traveled, and so he traveled quite a bit, and he came home. This was in August. He came home and he was having issues with his eye, and so just bothersome, irritated, itchy, red. And we looked at it, I couldn't find anything in it. This went on for weeks and weeks, and he went to the doctor, got eye drops over the counter, went to an ophthalmologist. They couldn't see anything. And like I said, this kind of just went on for approximately about a month, actually. And finally, in October, something popped through his eye, and we found out that Jack had ocular melanoma. So he had a large tumor in his eye, and it popped through his iris so they could finally see it. So it looks, yeah, it's crazy. If you actually look at the pictures of it, it actually looks like a pig snout. It's really ugly. It's a brown pig snout. That's what it looks like. But I don't know what people imagine a tumor looks like, but when I think of a tumor, I just think of a round ball sometimes until I saw these images. And then I realized that tumors are ugly and they look like scary beasts, and that's what they are. And so that's what we kind of had pegged his tumor as. He was going to just try to kill the beast. And so Jack went through chemo and radiation of the eye, and he was diagnosed, I should say, he was diagnosed stage 4 terminal cancer because it had spread to his liver, his brain, and his spleen. So the radiation was basically trying to rid the tumors from his brain and make the tumor in his eye smaller. And, he did that for 16 months. Jack battled for 16 months. And he lost his battle on February 8th of 2009. So just about 2.5 years after our son had died. And there was just nothing that, he did everything he could. He fought so hard. He did all the things, but the beast that we called it just was a lot stronger than he was at that moment. And I do say though that he did win the fight against the beast because he has the eternal life. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so heartbreaking. And it also must have been so frustrating because he knew something was wrong and the medical professionals weren't like delivering him the updates in the news,
yeah.
and imagine the pain that he was living with.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing was it was hidden behind the ciliary body of his eye. So if you know anything about the eyeball, there you have this little, your iris and the ciliary body. It was hidden behind there. And that's finally it broke through the iris, and that's when they could see it. And I mean, he went through extensive testing. We live in Nebraska in the United States, and we actually had to go to Iowa, the University of Iowa, because they have a huge ophthalmology department there. So Nebraska at that time in 2007 didn't have the equipment to diagnose him with that. So it's amazing because, we have come so far, and but we're still so far away.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot, especially because you're carrying the grief of Garrett, and then to have that happen to Jack. I just can't even imagine losing to the most, you know, two people so close to you that were so intertwined in your heart.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I had a lot of regret just because we kind of did put Garrett's his grief, our grief with Garrett on the back burner just a little bit because our sole focus at that time was survival for Jack. And not that we did not think of Garrett every single day, but it kind of it slowed my grief process down for my son as what really happened. And then you know we we just after we lost him, my daughter was 6 at the time, and we just kind of I just thought, okay, here I am, a widow. I'm a lost mom, and Gracie and I, we're going to do this. We've got this, and we still had our community and our family and friends surrounding us. And in my brother in March, just a month after my husband had died, my brother Seth had actually been battling a brain tumor for 5 years. And he had two brain surgeries to remove the brain tumor. And his brain tumors had always come back as like stage 1 or grade 1 is how they grade the brain tumors. And he never needed any chemo or radiation or anything. But in March, right after late February, early March, right after Jack had died, he started having issues again. And so he had his third brain surgery on March 13th. And this time it came back as a grade 3. So it had grown and it had become uglier. It started becoming the beast in my brother. And my brother never bounced back really from his surgery. And I mean, he tried his hardest. He was 6'5", and he was a strong man, and he did all the right things. And he had just been married about a year and a half, and he ended up losing his battle with his brain tumor 2 months after my husband's on April 7th, 2009. And so, at that time in my life, that's when I kind of really lost all hope and faith in everything. I was extremely lost. Here I was very alone. And, then it turned to where do you lean on your family? Because we all lost the same people in different aspects. My parents had lost their son, their grandson, their son-in-law, my in-laws, same. And it was just like, how do we even navigate all of this? And I don't sometimes I don't know how we did it. And I just know that at that moment in time, I after my brother had died, I was just like, Angie, you have a daughter, you have a life. You have to put 2 steps forward, however that looks. Each day you get up, you're taking your daughter to school, you're going to do this. And it was just a practice that I had to tell myself every single day. And was it easy? Absolutely not. Was it lonely? Extremely. Um, I still look back at those days and those months, and I wonder how, but I journaled a ton. I mean, I just had my faith. I leaned on my faith, and I just had to live by the conversations that I had with Jack prior to his death. Knowing that he was going to die, we talked a lot about moving forward. And so um, that's kind of what I leaned on.
Yeah, wow. That's your outlook in such a dark place and time, I think, is really inspiring because when you're in like the pits of hell, rock bottom, like that level of sadness, it's hard to function. And I can't even imagine still also having to be responsible for a whole nother human,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
right?
right.
And I can't even imagine that. And I feel like Gracie, right? Your daughter?
Yes, Correct.
was like this beacon of light, this symbol of hope, and that together, you could link arms and take that one step at a time, that one foot in front of the other approach. But that doesn't negate the feelings of the grief and the compound trauma and the sorrow, and even like knowing which grief is what feeling, right?
Hmm.
But your outlook on that is so beautiful, and I am so sorry for all of your losses. Like that is just so sad.
It is sad. It is very sad. And that's one of the things, like you said just a minute ago. That's when I really had to, I didn't know who I was grieving, because, like I said before, during that time period, I kind of put Garrett's, um, his death and his grief kind of on the back burner. And once I started journaling and I started sectioning out, who I was grieving, I had to pick a day. Today, if Garrett popped in my mind, I'm grieving him. If Jack popped in my mind, I'm grieving him.
Mhm.
If it was my brother Seth, that's who I do. And then going forward, I was just really, I was like, Gracie deserves a beautiful life. She deserves happiness. She
Mhm.
deserves all that I can give her and more. And, because I didn't just lose these people, she lost these people. She lost her baby brother. She lost her daddy and her favorite uncle, and um yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I can talk to you for hours, Angie. I mean, my story, everyone's story is so unique, but like going through such compound loss, my husband almost died. We miscarried. 3 weeks later, my father-in-law died. 3 months later, my mom died, both suddenly after a 3-week battle with cancer while my dad was dying. And then he died the same year as my mom. And like going through such compound grief and being a bereaved mother and like becoming an orphan and like almost becoming a widow in my 30s. Thank God that didn't happen because I
Mm,
needed him. I needed Shane.
yeah,
Even though we were very much the wounded helping the wounded.
exactly.
And it's really interesting how you said that, like who do you lean on? And so I know my losses happened during the pandemic while I also was running a business.
Yeah.
And we lived in one place. My father-in-law died in a different place. My mother died across the country. Same with my dad. Height of the pandemic. It was just all these other added layers. And
Mhm.
I'm a high performer, duh. And I didn't know what I was doing. And luckily I had sobriety on my side because it helped me like not numb. And I had to, feel and heal. I didn't have to heal, but had to feel, and that helped me heal. But it's interesting because you are becoming a grief coach, and I've actually stepped into that as well as a grief and resilience coach because I became the person I wish I had, really
Mhm.
helping people navigate grief. But I created a whole navigating grief framework, basically a checklist on like how to put that one foot in front of the other, and became that griefy BFF. So that when someone has such a tragic loss, they don't have to lean on their partner or their family because they're also grieving, and
Mhm.
have me or you come in as that griefy BFF to hold your hand because we don't need to go through it alone.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, I love that. That's exactly where I'm at too. I'm just we need to be able to surround these people that don't have the people. And yeah, the compounded grief is just it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's complex. It's it's interesting. Like this is about you, so I don't want to go too deep into this, and that's gonna probably be for another episode. But over the last like few years, when it came to like bereaved Mother's Day or like pregnancy loss awareness day, certain days, or even when people learn I miscarried, they'll ask like, "Did you name your baby?" And I didn't until this week. My
Oh,
miscarriage was 4 years ago, and but like I felt this like I was just too numb before, but I felt this extreme grief. I'm like I actually didn't, and was very thoughtful about it. And I won't share it here, but
yeah.
it's interesting because I wrote a letter to the baby. I wrote a letter because I didn't have a chance to process that loss because the day the baby died, we learned Dave had cancer, my father-in-law, and then he died 3 weeks later. And so it's really interesting because I haven't really spent that much time grieving the baby, and pulling apart which grief is surfacing has really been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and you probably can speak to this also, is that, grief doesn't go away. We just learn to layer our life around it. We are just given more tools to navigate forward with this part of us that is no longer here and this new part of us that is.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's one thing. And it's okay to, people need to realize also it's okay to go back like you're doing. Go back and, start that grief process again. And, you're recognizing that you didn't do those properly, but now you want to, and you have the tools, and you're able to do that. And so that's beautiful that you're able to acknowledge that and recognize
Yeah.
that.
Thank
So,
you. Oh,
yes,
Angie. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up soon.
yeah,
I don't wanna I don't want to go too far, but down this because I have a lot of questions. But your greeting card company,
yes.
what's your most popular card?
Well, I have actually three. I have that sell the most. I sell these every day. Cardinals appear when loved ones are near.
Oh,
Um, and then my angelversary, thinking of you on your loved one's angelversary, and then like a happy heavenly birthday. I have snarky ones. One of the top ones, like the next person that says everything happens for a reason, I'll throat punch them for
oh,
you.
I hate that. I hate when
I
people say that. I'm like, that is
know.
not true. I
Yes.
love that. Okay.
I like to add a little snark in there because if my friend had lost her husband or spouse, I'm not going to give her a card that says with deepest sympathy or I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm just not going to do that. That's not how I talk to my best friend. So I'm going to give her the very first one that I created was, I don't know what to say. Let's go eat one of those damn casseroles.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. Or
Oh my
that's,
gosh.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. When you actually, after we first met, you made one tell us about that one.
Well, yeah. So, because I am going to be part of the volume 2, Resilient AF, I am super excited for that. And so, after talking to you, I made a card that says, "You are resilient AF," and it has I doodled a flower and I just kind of made it all colorful and I love it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. And I think it's really cool. So yes, you're going to be in the book. It's coming out in January. I think we should definitely do a big push. Maybe if you're coming, are you coming to New York?
Yes, yes, I'm coming to
You
New
should bring a
York.
bunch of cards.
Well, I was gonna actually,
Well,
yeah, we'll talk about
we'll
that.
talk about it. Anyways, I'm really excited. So,
Yeah.
so for those of you out there who are like, what is going on in New York? We're launching the book that Angie's going to be in on January 25th we're going to launch it in January, but on January 25th in Times Square, New York, all of our authors are going to be featured on a billboard, and I'm hosting a brunch for them to celebrate them on the Sunday. So if you're listening and you're in New York and you want to meet up, or maybe even if you're in the media, I'd be really
Yeah,
cool to spread our word. But yeah, so and I just I can't wait to meet you in person
I
because
know. I'm so excited.
yeah, and just I love that you did a Resilient AF card. I think that's amazing. I have an idea for a card for Jewish grievers. I'll tell you offline because
Okay, perfect.
not because we're running out of time. So
Yes.
you have a gift. The gift is any listener can go to your Etsy shop, and the link is in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast15, all caps, one word, podcast15, you'll receive 15% off your entire order. I recommend going and the cards are cheeky, they're great, they're inspiring. Alana and I love our tongue in cheek humor. I mean, our books are called Resilient AF, so duh. I said
Yeah.
duh multiple times today. And I think it's amazing. And all of her links are also in the show notes for her social media, her shop, her website. Follow along with her. She's going to be offering grief support, resilience support. She has her memoir. There's lots of ways to dive into Angie's world. Um, Angie, what advice do you have for someone who's going through such complex grief with such profound losses in such a short period of time?
Well, I always go back to choices. I say this a lot, and it's actually in my memoir that I wrote. I always talk about choices, but we all, and I have it written here because otherwise I'll mess it up. But I practice the 3 C's of life: choices, chances, and changes. You must make a choice to take a chance on your life will never change. And, with my grief, I had to make a choice whether to give up or survive each day. I chose to survive. And by doing that, I had to take a chance on my broken heart and teach it to love and live. And during this process, I slowly saw my life changing into a beautiful story of heartbreak, death, love, hope, and renewal. And so I just honestly lean on how we choose to move forward in life.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think there's a fourth C you're missing.
What's
Cheese.
cheese? I'll add that one.
Okay.
And without the cheese.
Without the cheese, you'd have no intestinal issues. I love cheese.
I love cheese
Cheese
too.
does not love me. Um, yeah, that's really beautiful, and it's so true. Like, we can't control a lot of what happens in our life is out of our control, but we get to choose how we react and what we do to move forward. And sometimes that choice might just be moving from the bed to the couch or like
Mhm.
showering, but we have a choice. And
Yes.
you don't need to wait till you hit a rock bottom to make a choice to move forward. And
Yeah.
you're
And
just
if,
so
yeah.
inspiring.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And if you read my memoir, Chapters of Resilient Heart, which is on Amazon, you will read about another girl in my book who made the wrong choice. And that was my sister-in-law from my first marriage. And you can read about her story in my book. And
Wow.
that's why I say we all have choos's.
Oh yeah, they're not always the best ones.
Nope.
I've made a lot of those. I've done a lot of those choosings. You're amazing. So thank you for joining us today, Angie, and you're such a treat.
Well, thank you for having me. And I can't wait for this journey to continue and just everything that's coming.
Oh, so good. And thank you to everyone who tuned into another episode of Resilient AF. These conversations are with real people going through real hard shit. And you know what? Life is not full of sunshine and rainbows. It's going to get hard at some point, and that's why we exist. We're here so we can be that lighthouse in the storm, so we can help you navigate that hard shit. And let us be that lighthouse. Let us be that light at the end of the tunnel. Let us provide you that support, because it is okay to not be okay, and you are not alone. Friends, you are resilient AF. That's a wrap for another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. And thank you for listening. Are you feeling inspired to bounce forward?
Let's connect at theglobalresilienceproject.com, where you can read many stories of resilience, buy our books, shop our clothing line, learn more about how to strengthen your resilience muscle, be empowered, and more.
Remember, friends, you are resilient AF.